Hello, this is Darren.
And this is Paige.
And this is
Where's the Lemonade?
Where we talk about what happens when life throws you lemons.
Make some lemonade?
Maybe. Some weeks it's lemon squares.
Yeah, some weeks it's just lemons.
Yeah.
On today's episode,
We're going to talk about kids, money, and equality.
sounds complicated.
Very complicated. So this is a really tough subject. We've been reading in some groups, some blended family groups, and as well as us, and it caused us to have quite a discussion at dinner the other night when we were out on our date about this podcast.
It was quite a discussion. We have, ever since we started this podcast, we delve into subjects I don't think we would have ever quite gone as deep as we do into these subjects.
Oh, I totally agree, because we'd already come up with solutions around money and equality between stepkids and kids and all this stuff. At least we thought we did, until we kind of picked at this a little bit. And then we came back to the same conclusion that we had before. So
We did. But yeah, it makes you look at everything and go, is it all fair? Is everything fair? And first of all, I think we
life
decided
is not fair.
It's just some things aren't going to be fair because of the time, circumstance, just all different kinds of things, right?
Now, it's hard enough when you have your own kids and there's like an age disparity between kids, and things working out what the kids would consider fair across the board.
Right.
Because when you're first married, you don't have as much money as you do possibly when you're later married and the kids are starting to move out of the house.
Right.
So the big joke in our house was always, well, the younger kids are going to have nicer things and go on better trips. And the answer is yes.
They are.
For our older kids, just too bad. Suck it up.
We've always joked, though, that they'd be driving Ferraris, which of course they wouldn't, because we
don't drive Ferraris, so they're not going to drive
If anyone
them.
knows us, Darren and I are on the same page with cars.
Yeah, my truck is, how old is my truck?
13 years old.
No, 17 years old.
17?
It's a 2003.
And let me just tell you, that thing just runs like a gem. Okay, the gas gauge doesn't work and the speedometer doesn't work.
That's okay.
But we don't need anything else.
No, we don't. So I guess the thing that you have to think about is, just in a normal nuclear family that's not blended, there's an inequality as far as money goes, and as far as that goes. Now you throw a blended family in, and things go completely haywire.
That is very true. Very true.
Because chances are that you're going to marry someone or bring two families together where the pay is equal before, where both households before they came together was equivalent, are going to be very rare.
What do you mean?
Well, for example, when you and I got married, there was a difference in amount of income that I was used to.
So you're saying the person that you're marrying, it's very rare that
your incomes will be identical.
Right. Oh, yeah. Super rare.
And that family would be used to the same income that this family is used to.
Yes, yes.
So there's a lot of inequality just off the start.
Right.
Which that can cause some problems.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, and I think some of the reasons why it causes problems is because you have established, what's the right word? Traditions, or you've established expectations for kids on what they expect out of their parents when it comes to things and money and schooling, cars, cell phones, gifts, all those sorts of things. So now you throw two blended families together and wham.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be big things and it can be little things, right? I mean, when you and I got married, I had 2 kids in college. You had 1 kid in college. So, we had bigger expenses that we had to make sure we were talking through. And how are you handling that? It wasn't just Susie soccer, right? It was, do you pay for college? How do you handle that? Do your kids have a car? Right? Are you still paying for cell phones? Are you paying their car insurance? Do they have a car? I mean, it's a lot of stuff. And wait, if you're doing that, does that mean that we now do that for these kids over here?
They're not used to that. What
Right.
about this? And
Right. Or do we take it away from those kids and go, well, I mean, you know,
it can be
tough.
really tough. It's a silly thing. It was buying sodas at dinner when we went out.
Yes, we've talked about this before on our podcast. So if you're an avid listener,
You already know this story.
You already know this, that when I used to take my kids out to dinner, we never have soda at home.
Right.
And our treat when we went out to dinner, and we didn't go out to dinner that often. So when we went out to dinner, yeah, they ordered a soda at dinner.
Well, you only really had 2 kids at home left.
Yeah, but I mean, even when all 4 kids were at home, it was just, that was our treat at dinner. You know, that was just part of our dinner, was getting soda.
And for me, with 6 kids, I'm calculating, wait, that's $3 per kid. That's adding $20 to my restaurant bill. And now when we blended families, it was like, oh, now that's adding $30 to $40 to our restaurant bill.
Right.
Which I'm already paying well over $100 to feed the whole family. I'm like, oh my goodness.
So basically it was just, I mean, yes, that was an added expense to before I met you, but that was one of our traditions. It was just something we did. It was no big deal, right?
Right.
It was
Exactly.
And never even occurred to me that this would be like this big deal. Like, it's a soda. And then you and I get married, and I don't know, I think we went to go out to dinner.
We went out to dinner, and all my kids order water.
Well, and I'm getting like, oh no, everybody get a soda. Everyone gets sodas. And everyone's your kids are looking at me like, I can get a soda. And you're looking at me like, they're getting sodas. And even though it's this small thing, it became a huge
deal.
Division between you and I for a little bit. And it was just like, really, Darren? Just buy the kids a stinking soda. Like, I was just like, I don't get it. Knock it off. But money was really tight for us in the beginning.
It was very tight.
I mean, we're talking, we didn't buy paper towels because we couldn't afford paper towels. I mean,
so I'm sitting here looking at $30. That can buy a lot of paper towels, and we can't afford paper towels, but we can afford.
But we're buying a soda, right?
Soda. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So it sounds silly, but we didn't talk about this before the restaurant because you wouldn't even think.
You don't even think about it.
But that's an added stressor that you have, right? That small little things like that.
Right.
Now take that to the next level, to bigger things. When we got married, there was Jake had a car and Dallin had a car.
Right.
Right? Is that right? Yeah.
Well, Jake actually had a car that we had labeled his car.
Correct.
Right, because his dad
bought that
for him.
Right.
And Dallin had a car that was
the teenage car.
The teenage car, right.
Right. So, and it was the teenage car, still stayed the teenage car. Dallin still drives that car.
He actually still has it. 10 years later, he's
I
still
know,
driving
he's still
that
driving
car.
that car.
And he loves that car. It's a great car.
Yeah, the gray, what do you call it? Jacob called it the Great Depression.
The Great Depression.
Yeah, well, so the point was, all right, so we already had cars, but then we had a bunch of teenagers that were coming up, and what were we going to do with them, and what was the expectation?
Right.
Jake had his own car. There was a teenage car. I have my kids only half the time, so the teenage car, did it stay at our house? Did it go over to their mom's house? These were all tough questions.
Yeah.
And what about equity? Right? Jake has his own car.
Right.
The teenage car had to be shared by, at one time, 3 teenagers.
Right.
I mean, how fair is that?
Well, they saw Jake's car.
Yes. That is true. But you think about those things. So on these big purchases, and we have the same situation coming up again, because we'll have 3 teenagers driving at the same time.
Yes. And once again,
what do we do?
I have my child here, right? That's here 100% of the time.
And then 2 of my kids.
2 of your kids are going to be here half the time. So, we're not buying 3 cars. There will be a car.
Yeah.
So we have these things to work out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to be equal. You can't just do that. Right?
You can't just slice it up and go, okay, it's equal. It's not going to work out that way.
It's not going to.
Because, and we even have friends in this situation, say your ex buys your child a $1,000 iPhone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, we are luckily in the position where we agree with our exes on phones and technology, things like that. We would never buy our kids an expensive phone ever.
No.
And what do you do, right? When your ex is like, well, here's this thing. And then they have other kids in the family, right? They've got their stepkids in the family that
so it would
don't get that.
Yeah, exactly. So now you've got, in the same household, you've got kids with expensive iPhones,
Right.
and kids with $100 flip phone from Walmart.
Yeah.
And they're looking at you going, why isn't this
Yeah. Why aren't you buying me a $1,000 phone like their dad bought them, right?
right?
And I'm really glad we haven't had to deal with exactly that yet.
No, we haven't.
But we have had certainly hundreds of things to deal with.
Little tiny things.
Yes.
Now, another big thing, especially as your kids get older, and we've been married now 9 years, well, coming up in the fall. 9 years in the fall.
What are we going to do for our anniversary?
I don't know.
Are you planning it or am I planning it?
Oh, don't get started on that again.
I'm going to plan it.
No.
I'm going to plan it.
Okay. So one of the things that comes up is, as your kids go to college, what are the expectations for college?
Yes.
And who's paying for college, all that stuff.
And what if you already have a kid in college when you get married? And what are you currently doing? And was that what the person you just married was currently going to do? Tricky, people. It's tricky.
It becomes tricky. So, but you have to talk about these things.
You do.
Right? Instead of, and we even have friends that don't have a blended family and haven't talked to their kids about college.
Right.
And who's paying for college.
What the expectations are of who's paying for what. And I'm like, these need to be black and white conversations.
And you can't wait until their senior year to talk about these things.
Yeah.
Our youngest kids know that we don't pay for college except for certain circumstances. Like after they come home off a mission, we pay for the first 2 semesters of college tuition.
Right.
Right. So that expectation has been established.
Right. And they get a laptop. They get a new laptop when they come home.
And a new laptop. Right.
Yep.
So these are the sorts of things that you've got to talk through with your spouse, especially in a blended family, and not on the fly in front of your kids.
Right.
That can be really bad.
Right. And it's something you have to discuss with your ex. And I mean, it's a complicated triangle, right? To get all on the same page with it and not have kids get upset and not have each other get upset. Well, I feel like you're treating your child.
Yeah, between each other.
Yes.
Because we've read this in some of the blending family forums where they're like, well, my husband treats his own children to more expensive things than my kids. And he says to me, well, your ex should be paying for that.
Right.
Right. Wow. You've got to deal with those sorts of things as they come up.
Yeah.
What about allowance? Now, this is where kids could really play parents well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, they've got 2 different houses they're going to. You've got possibly 4 different personalities, right? If your mom remarries and your dad remarries, you've got 4 different adults that have their opinions about allowance and what were you getting when, your mom married this person and does he still want to give that to you? And
yeah, we have a great solution for this. Don't give allowance.
We don't. Actually, both of us were on the exact same page.
We were on the same page,
that.
which hallelujah. Can you imagine if we weren't?
And you know what? And I have friends that give allowance and it works out for them and that's fantastic.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to make their own decisions about that.
But for us, luckily, we were on the same page.
We're on the
with
same
this.
page. Their allowance is you get to live here, you get to eat here, and you get to be part of this family. And right?
And you work to be part of that. But then at the same time, we buy their clothes.
We do.
We
buy their, and we have friends that give their kids allowance, and then those kids have to buy their clothes with that.
Right.
So, and that's, they feel
they're
like
just
they're
different
teaching
approaches.
Them, yeah, they feel like they're teaching them money management, and I get that. So it's just different approaches. But you and I were both on the same page with that.
And you know what? Maybe if it is contentious between you and your ex around allowance, maybe the best thing to do is to not do it. Right? Yeah. I don't know. That wouldn't be a tough one that luckily we haven't had to deal with.
Right. Yeah, but that could be a tough one. All right, so now we're going to kind of dig deeper, right? Go a little bit deeper about the equality and different incomes and different,
Well, let's dive right into our discussion that we had on our date the other night. That kind of, because we said, let's talk about equality in money and kids. And then we sat there for almost 2 hours talking about, equality between the kids. And it was all around one subject.
Yes.
Paying for college.
Yes. And we thought that we had it all worked out, right? We thought we'd done such a great job of being fair and equal. And then we started thinking for a minute and went,
wait, is this fair? Is this equal?
Were we fair and equal?
Now, our philosophy when we first got married was we can't afford to pay for college.
Yeah.
Both of us already had this.
Yeah. We were going to have several kids in college at the same time. And no way.
Yeah, in fact, right now we're kind of happy because we only have 2 in college right now.
I know.
I mean, the most we've had was 4 in college.
Yeah, right.
And we're going to have 3 in college here in about 4 or 5 years. So there's no way that we could afford to do that. And you'd already set that expectation for your kids before we got married.
Yes, that they had to work, they had to save.
And I did the same thing with my kids too.
I love that. I love teaching kids a work ethic and to pay for their own things. And I love that. So so we were on the same page with that.
Which is good. But we also realize that there are some hard times for kids, especially when they come home like off a church mission. They've been on a mission for 1.5 years or 2 years without earning any money so that they could pay for college.
Right.
And you can only earn so much before you go to college the first time, which all of our kids have done.
Right.
So there was a little bit of a conundrum. So we came up with a plan that after your mission, we would pay for the first 2 semesters of tuition.
Right.
For college. And we thought, hey, this is working out really well. And it has so far.
It has. We buy them a laptop, and because whatever they had before their mission, usually they've had since high school, because we don't buy them a new one if they're going to go on a mission, right?
Right.
So they've usually got this. We buy them a laptop, and we pay for their first year of tuition that they're back. And we thought we've been doing great. And then we start thinking about, well, what about the kids that didn't go on a mission, right?
Yeah.
Like, has this been fair to them? So we really kind of went round and round and round about it. And have we been fair? Is there anything else we need to do? Do we need to reimburse some of our kids?
I thought it was funny when we said that. Reimburse? For what? For living? That was a funny one. So we just had to figure this all out.
We just had to talk through it. I mean, we already had decided it, and it was.
But it has been how many years since we decided that? 6?
Yeah.
6 years?
Yeah.
So we redressed it, which is important. When you've already made these decisions in the past, things might change. Well, for us, our discussion lasted quite a long time. We kept trying to punch holes in what we came up with before.
Yep.
And it was actually really great because both of us took both sides at different times in the conversation
we did.
so that we could really, I think we did a great job attacking the problem instead of each other.
We did not attack each other at all. We actually did a really good job that night. Good job, babe.
I know, we do great. But we came up with the same answer as we had before.
We did. We circled right back around to where we were.
And I wasn't sure we were going to.
Right. That
we did.
If the kids go, choose to go on a church mission, we think that's fabulous, and we want to support that. And that does not give them the opportunity to make money that you would have if you were just living a normal life going to college. And so we still feel like that was the best, that we were helping out where needed, right?
Right. Now, that's not the same conclusion that we came with a smaller thing like cell phones.
What do we come up with cell phones?
Well, remember when we first did cell phones, our kids weren't going to get a cell phone until a certain age. I can't remember.
When I married you, your kids had cell phones. They were 13 years old and had cell phones.
13 and 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the older kids, but the younger kids didn't.
Yes.
And we've changed that.
Well, before I married you, my kids didn't get a cell phone until they were 16. When they started driving, they got a cell phone. Now, granted, that was
different
eons ago.
Well, and that's why it's important to come back and look at what you've decided at first.
Right.
and roll it back a little
Yeah.
bit.
But I remember when I met you and I was like, oh, your 13-year-old has a cell phone. Now I know you and
They were dumb phones.
Yes, they were dumb phones. And I know you had decided that because when your kids were at your ex's house, and same with her, you want to be able to contact each other and be able to communicate with them. So I do get that. But which is weird. Most people we know, they're giving their kids cell phones younger and younger.
Like at 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah. And we
drag our feet. Now.
Yes. I mean, Madeline just got her first smartphone.
And she's almost 15.
She's almost 15. And it still doesn't have a whole lot on it.
No. So it's important. I guess the reason I brought that up is it's important that you adjust and that you talk about that adjustment when it comes to equality with the kids and money and things, that things do change over time. Right. So just like in a non-blended family, in a nuclear family, you should do the same thing. In a blended family, it's even more important to talk about this because there's more than just you and your spouse involved. There's another set of parents involved as well. And this is a good segue. There's not just other parents involved. There are other grandparents involved. Yes, there are.
And trust me when I say that is not equal, because some grandparents have more money than the other grandparents, right?
Absolutely.
They have more cash flow. They have whatever. They have more savings, whatever the situation
or maybe their
is.
philosophy is different too.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I'm going to give kids money now instead of when I die, or who knows, whatever. But yes, we have several sets of grandparents, and their monetary contribution to their grandkids is different. Is very different. And they've never asked us. We've never had anybody say, what does this grandparent do? Which they should not. No, they shouldn't. They do what they feel is right and comfortable. But that can cause inequality in your home. Yes. For example, if so a great example is my ex's mother has established a scholarship for all of her grandkids. Which is awesome. Thank you. She has established an endowment basically for all of her grandkids that go to college. Wonderful. That's awesome. Right. Our stepkids don't have a grandparent that has done that. No. So some of my kids, my bio kids, college is being paid for by this endowment. Not all of it, but it's a nice endowment. Yeah. Right. None of my stepkids' college is being paid. No. So there's inequality. Yes. So should I meet the difference? Make up the difference? No, I can't control grandparents or where kids are getting scholarships from. That's tough. Now, we also are not, horrible people that won't help our kids if needed, right? Correct. We have had kids ask us for help, and we've given them opportunities. This is one thing that you and I agree on. Yes. We give our kids opportunity to make money. Absolutely. Right. I'm of the mindset that you need to work for things. If you're just standing there with a hand, I don't like that as much. So some of our kids that have had a rough time going through college and needed a little extra cash every once in a while, I would give them things that they could earn money. Yeah, which I think is fantastic. Right. So it's fantastic. So yes, so that it can be very challenging. They will get different Christmas gifts from grandparents, and that whole thing. And no grandparent should ever try and meet the other grandparents, whatever they're doing. You do your thing, and the kids are grateful for it. The kids are very grateful for it. Right. And that also brings up us as parents should never compare grandparents with the kids at all. No. That's always a dangerous thing to go. And if our ex, their grandparent or their parents or even grandparents are just showering our kids with things that we normally wouldn't give, we need to be grateful instead of, oh no, they shouldn't do that. We need to be grateful and say, that's great that your grandparents have that ability to do that and help you out. Right. Right. So that we can show that gratitude. Yep.
Our lemonade moment of the week is mostly lemonade, not a lot of lemons.
Absolutely. We had Jacob come home this weekend, and
He brought a girlfriend.
The sweetest girl ever. She's a delight.
And, you know, the only lemon I can see in this is that Jacob had to navigate going back and forth between his mom's house and our house.
Yes.
And
which is what they always have to navigate when they're home. And I feel for them much.
And I also feel for his girlfriend, too. A little awkward, you know,
yes.
a meeting two families
yes.
where there should be one, but they handle it so gracefully, and we got to see them and have fun with them. So way to go, Jacob. That
was a great lemonade. I'll call it strawberry lemonade. It was so good.
Oh, a strawberry lemonade moment.
If you like today's episode,
give us 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, Google.
And head to Facebook and like us.
And check out our blog at where'sthelemonade.org,
where you can leave questions and comments.
But most of all,
go out and make some lemonade.
You betcha, baby.